Okay, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started, and welcome to breakout session 2.1 on AI digital microscopy, validation, adoption, and implementation strategies for the control of STH and schistosomiasis. But first, some housekeeping. All the meetings, including this one, are being live streamed to the virtual platform and will be recorded, just so you're aware. And these recordings will be available on demand a week later. We will not be live streaming during the breakout, the smaller groups discussion, but the video will come back during the report session. Breakout sessions will not have interpretation features, and as always, just take a moment to note the exit nearest to you in case of any emergency whenever you're in a building like this. I would like to start by thanking the organizers. That's Peter Ward, who is a PhD student on AI machine learning and parasitology at the Ghent University, and he is the co-founder of Enablers, who are part of sponsoring this session, and Professor Lisette Van Leschot, who is an associate professor in medical parasitology, Leiden University Medical Center. Thank you very much for bringing us together to take this field forward. I am going to be moderating the session. My name is Pauline Mwinzi. I am at the Expanded Special Project for Elimination of NTDs at the World Health Organization Regional Office for Africa. And I will be moderating together with Isaac, who is at the Division of Infectious Diseases, Toronto General Hospital. He's an associate professor at the University of Toronto. We're looking forward to a great session. Okay, so I'm on my last slide here, and I just want to give some brief introduction about the NTD roadmap goals for diagnostics and the priority and the central role we have placed diagnostics, because it is diagnostics that will deliver the targets that we've set for ourselves in the NTD roadmap quite directly. So they constitute a priority area. And further, for schistosomiasis and STH, we note the intensity of infection and prevalence is progressively decreasing, and current methods may not have the necessary sensitivity or specificity to support those programs. And therefore, this area becomes quite significant. New tests will therefore be required to support decisions going forward for various milestones of the NTD elimination program, especially for decisions involving changing frequency of mass drug administration, decision to stop mass drug administration, and validating and verifying elimination or eradication of diseases. And so to achieve progress in this area, WHO has established the Diagnostic Technical Advisory Group, which is helping WHO to identify gaps in access to currently available tools and to advise on the innovations and developments required to ensure that diagnostic process is able to properly inform decisions about work to combat NTD. This Diagnostics Technical Advisory Group has also instituted several focus-specific subgroups and quite immensely have supported WHO on 23 TPPs now, 21 already published and a few others ongoing. What is cross-cutting among the TPPs for NTDs is the point of care testing, that being ideal, rapid results, high sensitivity, high specificity, user-friendliness, affordability, and cost-effectiveness, and applicability to different endemic settings. You'll find that in all of this. And we have several groups represented here that have been working on digital optical diagnostic devices, and we're looking forward to listen to them. When this data comes from all of these projects, as always, at ESPEN, we receive data from all the diagnostic tests that are used in countries, so we look forward to receiving this as well. And at this point, I would like to invite my colleague to take us through the next session and provide the technical introduction.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So it's wonderful that everybody's here. My name is Isaac Bogosh. I'm an infectious diseases physician and scientist. I'm based at the Toronto General Hospital and the University of Toronto. Maybe I'll do that. And it's wonderful that everybody's here. Where's the... Great. Yeah. Just to point out, we've come a long way when we're talking about automated imaging, digital microscopy, digital pathology. This study was done in 2012, where we literally duct taped a glass ball lens to our iPhone, and we're able to find, this is the digital images that we captured. These are the conventional images that we captured, and look where we're at now. I mean, we're just so much farther ahead. It's just incredible to see the progress that's happened. When we talk about AI, obviously we're talking about a large umbrella of which there's many different areas to discuss underneath. You know, are we talking about true machine learning? Are we talking about supervised learning with just object detection and object classification? We're going to hear a lot of different approaches. Can you hear me okay? It was beeping a bit. Sounds good. Whole slide image scanning. We've got AI tools for microscopists. We've got assistive AI or fully automated AI. So you're going to hear a lot of different concepts today, and we have some leading world experts who are going to give 6-minute snippets on this. And then at the end of the day, or at the end of the session, we're going to tie it all together with a small group session. I think there's a few fundamental components, though, that really need to be discussed. And I think it's extremely important that we recognize that this is truly interdisciplinary. It's not going to be a parasitologist or an engineer or a designer that's going to get this done. This is truly a team effort, and if we want to take this the final mile, we have to. It's a core interdisciplinary approach. It also requires firm ethical principles. We don't need to recreate the wheel. A lot of these ethical principles have been discussed in detail before, and there's a whole bulletin of the World Health Organization published in 2020 discussing ethical principles for AI, especially as it relates to NTDs and global health, okay? Who owns the data? Who's consented to their data being used? Where's the data being stored? All of these, is it just for use in high-income countries, and are we including scientists and public health specialists in low-income countries? A lot of this has already been discussed, and we have to be guided by firm ethical principles in our approach. And again, we don't have to recreate the wheel. There's been people ahead of us who have done this. We know this requires global coordination and strong, and I will repeat, this is extremely important, not just strong, but very fair, real partnerships between high-income countries and low-income countries. When we're talking about digital health and AI and this type of technology, we know we know that a lot of this is centralized in high-income countries, and if we really are trying to be equitable and mobilize this for use, especially in low-income settings and low-income countries, we have to have strong and fair partnerships. There's a lot of challenges here, and there's some very practical challenges that we're going to discuss today, and that you're going to hear some solutions today. But again, these devices and this technology has to be robust. Anyone can plan something and do a study in a well-resourced lab, but how does it actually work in real-world settings? It has to be low cost, and low cost doesn't mean making the cheapest device. Low cost has to be, you have to think about cost and cost effectiveness for the true cost in terms of throughput, and how fast and how effectively you process sampling. And when you factor that in, you're going to see that the cost of the device is actually usually trivial. It's got to be point of care, portable, and the data has to be reported in real time. The other thing to consider is stakeholder engagement, and we should be talking, we'll hear a lot of people discuss this today, and stakeholder engagement truly means thinking of the entire spectrum of what we're discussing, from community engagement to sample collection, to sample processing, to image processing, to image reporting, and to actionable results. There's an entire spectrum that we have to consider, not just a device that's generating an image or automatically or evaluating an image. And if we really want to see this as successful, we have to consider every step along that cascade. I'm going to stop there, and I'm very, very happy to introduce our first speaker, Elena Dacal-Picazo. Elena holds a PhD, so Dr. Picazo holds a PhD in microbiology and parasitology, and has been leading projects in global health at Spot Lab, which is a social enterprise specializing in AI algorithms for clinical research and diagnosis with collaboration spanning in multiple countries. Dr. Picasso. There you go. And you'll see the timer over there.
Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for their invitation to participate in this breakout session. It's a great opportunity to be here sharing our experience in neglected tropical diseases. One of the projects that we have been involved in NTDs is Helminth AI project. The main objective was to create and pilot a methodology to digitize microscopy samples and to develop AI models which runs in real time on the smartphone for the detection and quantification the different STHs in cat-to-cat slides. For that, we have designed and developed 3 components. The first one is a 3D printed microscope adapter, which is universal for any Android smartphone and any microscope, and it allows us to acquire the images in a standardized way. And also, as it's made by 3D printed, we can decentralize the manufacture. The second one is the smartphone app for the acquisition of the images, but also for to acquire other relevant data such as age, GPS coordinates, everything that is relevant for the diagnosis. And the third one is the telemicroscope platform. Once the images are acquired, these are uploaded to the telemedicine platform for the visualization and analysis. With this analysis, we are going to develop the AI models that are finally integrated into the smartphone app for the diagnosis support in real time. And this process, we needed the connectivity. This project, funded by the European Union, has been done in collaboration with the Stella Kefas team in Cambridge, Kenya, and with the collaboration of the East Global organization from Spain. And it has been divided in 2 phases. The first one, we developed a baseline model for the detection and quantification of Ascaris and Trichuris eggs using a small sample size. And we use that model in a large-scale study for the analysis, 2,427 cat-to-cat slides. So the idea is lab technicians in Kenya analyze the slides in parallel using our technology and the conventional methodology. And with this analysis, we were able to develop 5 AI models in 2 weeks, and we integrated into the smartphone. So it was amazing because they can see the real impact of their work in real time. Here you can see the performance in terms of precision of recall of the AI model for each parasite and the average. And as you can see in the graph, the AI performance was increased over time. During these years, we have to face numerous challenges, but also we learn a lot, not only from this project, but also from the other projects that we are conducting in parallel, not only in NTDs, also in hematological diseases. And I would like to highlight here 5 points that for us are very important. The first one is the defining a human AI experience, because the performance is important, but also the usability of the system. So we need to define from the beginning with the end users the technology. The second one is the integration into real clinical workflows. And here I think that using we adapt our technology to the current diagnostic techniques because we are based on microscopy. The third one is that we need to ensure the data quality and traceability, and we need to validate in the real context, following the different guidelines for the regulation and quality control. And the last one is that we need to train from the beginning, and one of the things that we perform from SpotLab is that after the first training, we perform a usability testing, and we are conducting this usability testing in different points of the study to try to evaluate the learning curve. And the last thing that I want to share with you today is the future work that, that the real work that we are currently working on through a project funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That is, on one part, we are developing our foundational models based on our medical images. So the idea is that in the near future, we are not going to need a high number of images to train the algorithms. And the second one is that through the same mobile app that you have seen to acquire the images, we have the possibility now to acquire other type of data from multiple sources, like a multimodal mobile application. So now we can acquire videos, audios, and other type of data, and we can combine this data and use as an input for a large language models that we have incorporated into the app. And we present that part in the Innovation Lab session, and if you don't have the opportunity to see yet, I encourage you to see the video. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Picasso. Our next speaker is, there we go, Dr. Jean Koulibaly. I'm pleased to announce Dr. Jean Koulibaly. He's an associate professor in epidemiology in bioscience at the University Félix Houphouët-Boigny in Côte d'Ivoire. He holds a PhD in epidemiology from the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute. I'm biased, he's also a very dear friend and a collaborator and a wonderful human being. Come on up, Jean.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll take a few minutes to talk about what we are doing in Côte d'Ivoire in the last 10 years. We were starting with this device you saw here, the basic device, mobile phone, with a small glass bell lens to adjust on the camera. And we are so happy to work on that in terms of collaboration because engineer and researcher from several countries, Toronto, Seattle, and TPPs, and so on. And we were so enthusiastic to work on this device because this was the solution to resolve everything in low and middle countries. Because we can go in the field with the device without electricity and make sure that we can work easily in field in the remote area and be keeping, even if it's not a specialist working with the device, we can keep the picture in the device and alter that we can make the identification and help the community in the rural area. We were so happy to work on that, but unfortunately when we arrived in the laboratory to start working with the device, we realized it's not so simple to make simple thing for low resource setting because it was so hard to work with the device. You see, we need to maneuverate the mobile phone with the hand and make the zoom also with the hand. And we were aware that that will not be working. Nobody will accept to be struggling like that to make the diagnosis of disease. And from 2010, we are moving with the several kind of device up to recently this device, this is more sophisticated one, and we realize also that it's not also easy here because we need to count manually the number of X on the screen. And the last prototype which are now developing by Seattle people, global laboratory work people, is to adjust the artificial intelligence in the mobile phone to make sure that this device can count, identify, and count the number of X at the same time. And we have several sensitivity and specificity in terms of performance, and also the image we can see on the right side with all the devices. And the last one is this one. You can see at the beginning we're targeting a lot of parasites, but at the end is only one. We were convinced that it's not easy to be targeting several kinds of parasites because of the kind of sample you are looking for. It can be liquid, like a urine sample, or maybe solid as a stool, or maybe a tissue. And based on the type of sample, it's more complicated according to the device you are using. That's why at the end we just focus on one parasite to make sure that we can improve this, and after that we'll see how to be adding the other parasite. What we learned during the 10-year process of all those work is that the development of point-of-care diagnosis device is a process that requires long-term collaboration. I'm working now, the new prototype is only 1 year now from the global laboratory work people. We are waiting. That's the engineer working on it, And we are sending the device to fieldwork people, and we are working on it to send back to them the gaps and how to improve it. The second thing is the diagnostic technology are developed in high-income country, but we should make sure that the calibration and the validation process is done in low, middle country, in tropical area, because of sometimes the temperature which is very high, like in some country like Niger or Chad. If you are calibrating the thing here and be going with working in very hard setting, you can lose the device after few using. And last thing maybe to as a lesson is also the fact that the current global change, and to avoid suspicion in the communities, we need to inform very early the communities that is a long process. Otherwise, the community will be asking you, why is it taking too much time if you are not informed at the beginning? We think there are still some ongoing challenges like the consent, the security, and the accessibility of the data and the specimen also, and the capacity building issue in low and middle income country about this artificial intelligence will be integrated in the device. And also we should make sure that to reach the remote area people, we have sufficient autonomy of the device, because in those places there are no electricity, and taking into account also the high temperature zone, and the fact that the overlapping diseases, NTDs overlapping diseases, we should make sure that also we are taking all those components into account when we are developing the devices with the artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Coulibaly. I will look forward to engaging you during the break. It's now my pleasure to introduce Professor Temitop Ebenezer Agbana, who is a postdoctoral researcher on the INSPIRED, a collaborative project between Delft University of Technology, Leiden, University Medical Center, and other research institutions in Africa. Agbana is the CEO of ADEX Medical BV in the Netherlands, a spin-off from his PhD. And it's, is it recorded? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, thank you. It's a video recording.
Hi, I'll be speaking on the automated AI-based microscopy for multiple NTD detection. My name is Temitope Agbano. The schistoscope. Schistoscope is an AI-based microscope that is designed for the quick detection of schistosomiasis and soil-transmitted helminth, integrated AI, independent or expert independency, and quite ease of use is what we focus on so that we can deploy such devices to the field and can be used in public health systems. You can see in the left the optical train, and then of course the autofocusing algorithm, the sample arm movement, and the final design of the schistoscope as it is right now. To the right, you can see the algorithm picking out specifically the detected eggs from prepared urine samples. So what was the focus? We've done several field validation of the schistoscope. We've done validation in Nigeria, we've done in Gabon, and this time around we wanted to see the performance of AI-based microscopy on banked samples. So we prepared 798 slides that were stored of S. hematobium eggs urine samples stored at 4 degrees centigrade for 2 years before examination. 2 years ago, they were examined using standard microscopy, and the results were stored. We were blinded to this result and went back to the field, as you can see in number 4, where Mehula Breeze was actually testing the devices, and the result of the schistoscope and the microscopy is compared, there is a plot, a correlation plot in 3 above. And you can look at this correlation plot of the microscopy on the y-axis and schistoscope on the x-axis, and you can see quite an impressive correlation, and we're quite very happy with this result. So what are the key lessons and what's the next step for us? Number 1, it was quite very interesting to see that the schistoscope works on bank samples. So we believe that we got similar results from bank samples as we got from fresh urine samples. And this is reproducible. Make sure you store them at 4 degrees centigrade and all of that. Co-creation, inspired project for me is quite very big on co-creation, quite very big. We have consortium of people, parasitologists, engineers, designers from different institutions, and that is a positive part of this project, that we could get a lot done, right expertise on board, and we could move faster than usual. But on the other side, you could have the bottleneck of delays, which may be due to bureaucracies and different ways of operation in different countries or different institutions as well. What's our lack and concern? Of course, we lack funding. We've been sponsored by NWO, and now the project is coming to an end. We are glad to promote our PhD students, and that will start in December, but at the same time, we cannot continue the development of the schistoscope any further. Also, one of the challenges we saw on the field is that there is no standard industrial guide that could guide design, the TPP that could guide it. We tried to do something about it. We just published a paper around that based on what we have done so far. But on a very bright side, the joy for us is that the data from the schistoscope, the data, the design, hardware, software, we plan to make it open source. And we're looking forward to the 1st of December to launch this open source system for the schistoscope. Is that the end of our project? No. The AIDX multi-diagnostic automated microscopy is an instrument developed, of course, during my PhD that could do much more than the schistoscope, do multiple diseases, even look at bacteria, look at other parasites. And we've done some work in the NTD space looking at microfilarial samples, looking at urinary schistosomiasis, and of course, also looking at S-man-sonine. And I mean, the results are quite very impressive. We recently published a work in Nature Scientific Report and other work on usability and all of that in collaboration with Inspired, and it's been amazing. And for me personally, the joy is that we are going to the field in collaboration with BN Fund to do some operational analysis in a particular location in Nigeria, looking at 10,500 school-age children and screening them, and of course, providing the relevant treatment. So the schistoscope is over with right now because based on funding, but there are other ways to actually extend the project and the goal and the vision that we have. I will really want to acknowledge wonderful partners and collaborators, Leiden University Medical Center, TU Delft, SEMEL, NWO, Inspired, and of course, University of Lagos and University of Ibadan for their support. For more information, you can, of course, reach us out online or send an email to me also if you have questions. And of course, also we appreciate the N Fund for helping us take this to the field in collaboration with ADEX Medical. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Agbana. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Peter Ward. He is the co-founder of Enablers, a Swedish-based social enterprise making AI-based diagnostics more accessible. Peter is also a doctoral candidate at Ghent University, Belgium, where he focuses on applying machine learning to NTDs. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Hopefully a doctor soon, but not just yet. Thanks. Yes, so first, I just want to acknowledge all of the partners that have contributed since our last demo in 2019 at COR-NTD. Enablers is a spin-off with a technology transfer from Janssen Global Public Health at the end of last year. And unfortunately, some of our partners are in the field right now, so they couldn't join us, but they're running some clinical studies. So at Enablers, we're building an AI-based point-of-care platform to support large-scale deworming programs. At the core, we use machine learning models to automatically identify, classify, and quantify STH and schistosome eggs in catechats smears. It's also supported with electronic data capture tools for demographic information. And this is also connects to a reporting dashboard for further insights and analysis. So in developing our solution, we've used the WHO Target Product Profile as a guiding document in order to make sure we're developing something that's going to be useful in the field. The TPP wasn't specifically aligned for an AI solution, so we published a commentary on how we could address the different requirements specified. And we've since developed study protocols in order to go out and collect the evidence against these TPP requirements. And currently we're conducting the head-to-head studies and various experiments for cost efficiency, usability, repeatability, reproducibility, etc. So one point of clarification I want to make if you're assessing AI microscopy solutions is the difference between analytical performance of an AI model and the clinical diagnostic performance. So the analytical performance is often the precision and recall, the measurement of the AI model in isolation, looking at an image and being able to identify the true positive eggs in the images. Whereas the clinical diagnostic performance generally takes much more into account, including, for example, the ability to read all images in a smear, the ability to differentiate between duplicate eggs in that smear, the ability to find the right focus. So all aspects in order to get a clinical decision of whether it's a positive or negative sample, or if it's low, moderate, heavy intensity. So we have a couple of different published data sets for our images and our code online, so I encourage you to have a look at those. In 2019, we had this scanner, a demo at COR-NTD, and today we have this scanner here to show. One important note is by using a lower magnification, we're able to reduce the scan time from over an hour down to 12 minutes for a full whole slide imaging of a cut-to-cut smear. So some of the key lessons is particularly on the data collection, annotation, cleaning, management. It's definitely an exercise that I think the effort is underestimated. And developing the right tools in order to manage this and do the annotations has been really important for us. Hardware, it's got the word hardened for a reason. Making something that's robust and usable and reliable in the field has been really challenging. So there's been many iterations to identify these kind of weak points of putting it in remote locations without infrastructure. And then, as I think all of the presenters have highlighted, is the importance of collaboration. As engineers, we understand there's a need to collaborate in the field, so the co-creation there has been really important for us to understand the challenges. And also really to put in a holistic perspective on how it's used in the field and how different stakeholders can make use of the system. So some of the challenges that I would really like to focus on include how do we make innovative and more sustainable business models in order to support solutions like this in real practice? And also, how can we best involve the local communities so that they can take ownership of this kind of system? I would also love to explore the regulatory pathway. There's 149 endemic countries. It's a pretty wide regulatory landscape, so we need a bit of a roadmap on how to do market access and how to get regulatory approval in all these markets. And then on country level ownership, I'd really like to explore how we actually move to more of a country level ownership and how these AI microscopy solutions can help facilitate that kind of work. So it'd be interesting to explore how we could design a pilot study to kind of demonstrate this. Yeah, so that's for my presentation. We have the machine here and we'd love to do a demo later today, so reach out.
Thank you, Peter. Next up, we've got Betty Nabate. Betty's a program officer at the Ugandan Ministry of Health in the Division of Vector-Borne and Neglected Diseases. She's got 15 years of experience in implementing field activities for the mapping, control, and elimination of neglected tropical diseases.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Betty Navate. I am a program officer with Bilharzia and Worm Control Program at the Division of Vector-Borne and Neglected Tropical Diseases, Ministry of Health, Uganda. I'm also an AI super user. I'll share with you the current status of STH and SCH in our country. Schistosomiasis is endemic in 96 out of 146 districts, while STH are endemic in all the districts. We are currently conducting mass treatment for schistosomiasis and soil-transmitted helminthiasis in all geographical areas. We're doing monitoring and evaluation activities. These include baseline mapping. This we have completed for all the diseases. We are also conducting precision mapping since 2017 to date. Our program has challenges in monitoring and evaluation, and these include lacking adequate data to inform scaling up and scaling down decisions. Our precision mapping is not complete, and this is caused by so many factors, among which the high cost of monitoring surveys. So we regularly miss monitoring surveys after mass drug administration as stipulated by WHO. We lack adequate laboratory capacity to diagnose STH and SCH. Where we have monitoring, it is mainly centralized. Thus, there is limited community capacity to diagnose schistosomiasis and STH. We also have a challenge of poor data reporting and use after the surveys, because data entry and analysis is often delayed through manual entries. And these manual entries, as we all know, are also prone to human errors. AI microscopy shows potential benefits in improving program implementation, especially in monitoring of STH and SCH, because it shows a potential to reduce costs, maybe to be cheaper. For example, labor and supplies may be reduced through using artificial intelligence microscopes. One microscopist can operate several AI machines at a time. Several slides can be examined at a time, and it is easy to use and learn. AI microscopy can also be used in remote settings, as in our settings where we go to the field and collect data for monitoring, and does not require experienced microscopists. Moreover, data quality with artificial intelligence microscopy is much better because the scans are clearer than how you'd read them through natural light or through the bulb on our regular microscopes. Moreover, data can be stored and reviewed later. This is an opportunity that we can take advantage of because over the internet, data can be seen from everywhere. It also we see it has a potential to improve data reporting because the data errors are minimal, misinfections are minimal, and data can be directly uploaded into the health management information systems, which makes analysis easy, and then decisions on who to treat and where to treat much faster. Also, when you look at the potential benefits to the individual, it eases and lessens stress on our eyes, on our back. The stress of counting eggs also is reduced. However, it's still posed with a few challenges because it needs electricity or an alternative power source. Therefore, we would recommend that maybe it has an inbuilt power storage for remote areas. It requires internet to access the files, and also for reports to be sent, you require internet. It also requires continuous software updates. So that's a challenge we see. Also, I see a challenge in its adoption and usage, where we see some microscopists fearing that they will lose their livelihood, because then where you need two people, then you need one person. Where you need one slide, where you need two slides, you need one slide. So those are the challenges I've seen. And so for our breakout session, I have some few questions, because I've said AI microscopy shows potential to be used as a point of care test usable at community level. So how can we improve its integration into the healthcare system? And how will artificial intelligence microscopy affect your laboratory systems? Thank you very much. See you in the breakout session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Okay, next up, we've got Adama Kazienga. Adama is a PhD student at the Department of Translational Physiology and Infectology and Public Health at Ghent University in Belgium, and in the Department of Public Health, Erasmus, and Rotterdam, Netherlands. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. So, as you know, neglected tropical disease are predominant in resource-constrained countries, and it's very crucial to minimize the total operational costs while ensuring the correctness of the program decision. So this morning, I would like to give you an update on the general framework we developed to support cost-efficient survey design and also direct research and development of new diagnostic methods. So, as a background, the WHO released the new roadmap for the control of neglected tropical disease. And then in this new roadmap, for instance, the diagnostic is very crucial in order to reach the goal set it for 2030. So I don't think it's this slide. This slide is not the latest version.
That's what we got.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so in this graph, the first question is whether if we wanted to use new diagnostic method, it will definitely come with a higher cost and then lower throughput. So in this simulation study, we demonstrate that, for instance, the first scenario, we assume that the standard diagnostic method and then the new improved diagnostic method, if they have the same performance, so if we have higher region cost for the new diagnostic method, so we need to increase the throughput. However, for the last two scenarios, we just assume that we have an improved diagnostic method for the specificity. So we can see that if we improve the diagnostic method for the specificity, because the specificity is the critical diagnostic method to consider when the neglected tropical disease program progresses toward the end game. So we can see that it leads to a reduction in terms of the sample size. And then we can see a downward shift of these contour lines. That indicates that if we improve the diagnostic method, the reduction in terms of the required sample size will compensate the higher cost and then the lower throughput of the new diagnostic method. So there is no need to be scared with the coming of a new diagnostic method, because we can still use the same barject to run the survey as we were using with the standard method because of this reduction of sample size. Okay, so now we are working currently how to adapt the current framework we developed, because we use the CATOCAT, and then when using the artificial intelligence digital pathology. So basically, the question we wanted to know, what will be the number of schools that we need to sample, the number of children, how many stools should we collect per children, how many smears should we prepare if we do wanted to use the artificial intelligence to do the control of salt-transmitted helminth or others like the schistosomiasis in the field. Okay, sorry. Okay, so for the current status, okay, so we can see from this slide in terms of the. So here, this table illustrates the survey design that we need for the control of salt-transmitted helminth if we do want it to stop the preventive chemotherapy, or if we wanted to declare the elimination of salt-transmitted helminth. Because we found that the current survey design that proposed WHO, sampling 5 schools and 50 children per school, is not sufficient to either stop the preventive chemotherapy or to declare the elimination of salt-transmitted helminth as a public health problem. So the simulation study provides, so there is a need to revise the current guideline and then use the current number if we do want it to have sufficient result. So, as a key lesson, so we can say that the artificial intelligence digital pathology can be operated in a low infrastructure level. So it's also allow for electronic data capture and then also the data reporting. So in terms of ongoing challenge. As I said, we wanted really to adapt the current framework to the artificial intelligence. So there is a need to determine what is the minimum analytical performance in terms of recall and the precision. In other words, we wanted to determine what is the TPP, the target product profile, when using artificial intelligence digital pathology for the control of salt-transmitted element or schistosomiasis. And then for this, there is data that we need in terms of itemized cost assessment. We need also the cost, and then to allow us to see what is the scenario. Should we go for single slide or duplicate cut-to-cut? So I would like to acknowledge COR-NTD for the support to attend to this meeting, and then I would also like to acknowledge my promoters, Professor Bruno Levesque from Ghent University, Professor Sack and Professor Luke from Erasmus MC for their constant and continued support. And to you all, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kazienga. Our last speaker is going to be Dr. Bruno Levesque, who is a veterinarian with a PhD in vet sciences and an MSc in statistical data analysis from Kent University. For the past decade, he has focused on researching and improving the control of STH in children, addressing crucial questions for successful large-scale deworming programs. As the head of the World Health Organization Collaborating Center for Monitoring Anti-Helminthic drug efficacy for STH, he translates his findings into policy, including contributing to the revision of WHO guidelines. So thank you very much. Bruno, you're next. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bruno Levesque, and in the coming 5 to 6 minutes, I will give a brief overview of a study protocol that has been developed by the International Consortium with the ultimate aim to comprehensively evaluate an AIDP to monitor large-scale deworming programs against STH. When I talk about AIDP, I specifically mean KK 2.0, a device that has been intensively showcased earlier today, and hence I will not discuss in more detail. Rather, I will just give 5 take-home messages about this protocol. And the 5 in the coming slides, I will discuss one by one in more detail. So I'll start with fully alignment with WHO TPP. So we all know there's a TPP for STH for monitoring and evaluation of control programs, specifically for verifying whether STH has been eliminated as a public health problem, and to verify whether frequency of MDA can be reduced. And if you dive into this in more detail in this document, you will see there are 38 attributes, and that these attributes are clustered across 5 items, or going from product use summary up to the product costs and channels. So what I try to do is to illustrate 2 things. So first of all, where the AIDP currently stands, and second, how this protocol can provide full or partial evidence whether the device meets the WTPPs. So in blue is indicated whether the device already fulfills the attributes. Green and orange indicates that the protocol will provide the evidence full or partially. And at a glance, you can see that the device already fulfills quite some attributes, but also that the protocol will provide evidence, required evidence, according to the WHO TPPs. Second is that we are not only focusing on sensitivity and specificity, we are also looking at repeatability of test results, the time to results. We will also conduct an itemized cost assessment, which will feed into the general framework that Adama has been showcasing earlier today. And finally, we will also have an experiment on usability and the user experience. The different experiments have been carefully powered. Generally, the hypothesis is that KK 2.0 is non-inferior to the current KK, which is KK 2.1, and the sample size calculation is specific for each experiment and for each of the different STH pieces. So, for instance, as an example, the first two hypotheses or experiments within the group of diagnostic performance, so clinical sensitivity for any intensity and clinical sensitivity for moderate to heavy infection intensity, we can see for ascaris that for any infection intensity or low infection intensity, you need 125 cases for ascaris, whereas for the moderate to heavy infection intensity, it's 110. If you look across the different STH pieces, you can also see a difference. So again, for the first hypothesis, there's a clear difference in the number of cases required for each of the three STHs. Gold standard is a critical point and is basically a cross-cutting issue. We try to resolve this because we're working with AIDP, we will make scans of the KetoCat slides. So basically we have a ground truth. We will define a ground truth that gives us the probability to decide this is true positive or this is true negative. This is for the low infection intensities. For the moderate to heavy infection intensity, which is more or less will occur less in settings where we're planning to conduct this study. So we will spike slides where the known number of X, mimicking moderate to heavy infection intensities, and hence we know that these slides are representing a moderate to heavy infection intensity. And then finally, I want to highlight this protocol is generalizable. So basically, if you want to replace KK 2.0 by your own name or your own device, it would allow you to verify whether your own AIDP would fit the WHO TPPs. Second is that this is for STH, but again, the sample size calculation how the sample size is calculated is fully provided, and hence it could also be adapted to other pathogens, for instance, schistosoma mansoni. So these were the 5 take-home messages. What's only remaining is to thank you for your attention, and if there would be any additional questions that could not be resolved during the discussion, please don't hesitate to email me. I wish you a fruitful discussion, and hopefully we will meet next time in person. Bye.
Thank you, Bruno. And thank you to all the presenters. That's really amazing. I hope everyone is excited as I am at how fast this field is moving. We've heard from the development of the devices themselves to the performance of the detection and the specificity thereof. So we're looking forward to the small group discussions where we will look at questions that came from the presenters. We asked the presenters to provide questions to us on the next steps and areas that would be helpful to discuss in these sessions. And the questions were tied to design, regulatory implementation, data management, ethical aspects, accessibility of the optical device, and general aspects and miscellaneous. So you will all go to this link, or you can scan this QR code, and please ensure before the end of the break you have picked at least 3 top questions that you think we should discuss during the small group discussions. So we're going to leave this one on here for during the coffee break, but make sure you at least complete that within the break time. When we return, we will then go into the small group discussions. We'll explain how that will happen. So thank you very much, and enjoy your coffee break. Yes. And I need to add that we didn't have a Q&A session, so that's going to happen during the coffee break and in the small group discussions. So please, note your questions and go to the presenter and bring that also to the small group discussions. Thank you. Enjoy your coffee break. Yeah. The coffee break? 30. The coffee break is 30 minutes. Yes, yeah. So ample time for discussions. Yeah. Thank you.
Should we do chronological order? Okay. Group 1. Who's the rapporteur for Group 1? Oh, the most articulate man in the room. There we go. Here we go. And then just a reminder. Oh, go ahead. We've got about 4 minutes.
Should I start?
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So I was sitting in a very talkative group. I'm not sure I'm going to do justice to them and to all what they've said. But basically, regarding the point 1, the usability barriers, some of them have been already mentioned by the speakers before us. Like it needs to be affordable, rugged. There no need for electricity. There needs to be a good battery life. It needs to be easy to use and non-inferior to visual reading. But I think some of the more interesting discussions were centered around the supply chain for these devices. Ideally, they should be made in country, and we recognize that it's difficult, but that was the desired. Another point that was brought up was the ability to access the raw data, so not just the final interpretation of the data, but to see the raw data itself, and that means storing a lot of images, and then that probably requires a lot of memory in the device. There was also, the suggestion was made to have standardized slide that could be provided maybe by WHO as a sort of reference library to verify that the device is working as desired. Sorry, I'm trying to go to... There was a very heated discussion around hookworm because apparently hookworm dissolves after 30 minutes in glycerine, and so people need to be able to see the hookworm right then on the spot. So right now with a 12-minute test, it's doable, and a 12-minute test is still better than doing qPCR, but still it was felt that the tests need to be short so that for a start, you can run many tests in parallel or sequentially, but in addition, you can catch hookworm before it dissolves in glycerine. And finally, there needs to be technical assistance on the ground, maybe for recalibration of the devices or things like this, but you can't really send it back to the manufacturer for calibration and send it back to the field. That's probably too complicated. For point 2, how to foster better collaboration between the various stakeholders. So the stakeholders are the community that are in need of being diagnosed, the governments, the donors, the academics, the NGOs. And here, 2 of the suggestions that were made or points that were made that were interesting was that the ability to show the images to the people being diagnosed is very powerful in bringing additional people to bring their sample to you, essentially. So seeing is believing. And then it was felt that, of course, you need to have to be able to publish the preliminary data, and that will hopefully convince some of the stakeholders. But finally, one could create focus groups and a sort of target product profile exercise to bring the different stakeholders together and align them on what the needs are, including what is the intended use case exactly for that test. And then for the third point, the WHO approval. So here the immediate answer was that there needs to be a good ERPD process, so external review product development review process, and it needs to be communicated clearly to the others. Some of the questions that might appear is how are you going to lock down a device if you have a machine learning that keeps trying to learn after it's been locking down. So the locking down and the revalidation as you get new data is going to be an important one. And one does not need to start this thing from ground zero necessarily, but you can copy other TPPs. And so, for instance, there's been guidance issued for malaria microscopy, and that could be looked at. And someone made the suggestion that it should go in front of the DTAG. I think that was all for today.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Your time's up. Okay, that was fantastic. Great detail. We'd love to hear from group 2, please. And please remember to email your responses to Peter below at the email address.
Hi, I'm Victoria from Mundo Sano, Argentina, and I'm representing Group 2. So a lot of the barriers were mentioned in the presentations and also by Group 1. They were electricity, internet, also the job substitution of skilled microscopists, and one of the barriers we saw is that sample preparation is still required. Also, we talked about importation, produced locally to be able to have this in the country. And then we thought that maybe this might be a solution that's not substitute microscopy, but maybe complements it. And we think it would be good for external quality control, for example. It would be good to use for that. And then collaboration, we thought about showing the benefit to the healthcare system on how to implement policies. So with these results, they would be able to rapidly decide if they need deworming or not need deworming. That also, if we could show that this could be integrated with other NTDs or with other diseases, if you're able to not only look at a Cato cats, but also look at a urine sample or a sedimentation sample or a blood sample, then maybe integrating with other diseases, that would be good. And also if you could link it to the national health system so they could quickly have results on what the situation is. We had a hard time with number 3, but we thought that this needed further testing under field conditions to determine its performance and also to determine survey designs, because depending on the prevalence, you might need more samples or less samples. And we thought that it would be interesting if WHO had a TPP for AI tools, so that would help to incorporate this. Thanks.
Group 3, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Luc Koffing. On behalf of Group 3, I'll try to just summarize the points that haven't been mentioned so far. There's a lot of overlap. With regard to usability barriers, obviously it needs to be fit for purpose, the tool, but let's assume that it is. Let's see what wasn't mentioned already. Well, cost of purchase and deployment, of course, and demonstrated cost effectiveness or cost efficiency compared to established methods. That's something that remains to be demonstrated. And another point that wasn't mentioned yet, but that we discussed at length, is actually the actual willingness to use. How willing are local programs, but also labs and personnel to actually use these tools. Then, for the second point about fostering collaboration to integrate into local systems, we took this a little broader than the question, which suggested healthcare systems. We also considered public health programs and STH control programs. Major point is to involve the endemic partners from the start of the process. One, to clarify what the needs are from within the country, but also to clarify what the routes are by which, say, technicians are trained in the country, where the supplies come from, but also to help clarifying the research findings themselves, because very often the papers that we write are not directly useful for the policymakers and implementers. One way to do this might be brokering of information between the researchers and the countries via, say, middle persons like NGOs with established relationships and working relations in the country. Another point that was mentioned was assurance of by companies to actually support, continues to provide support for training, maintenance, and updates of these devices. That might be good for fostering collaboration as well. Like the other groups, we also found the third point quite challenging. Fortunately, we had Sol on the group from WHO. There is indeed a need for a WHO pathway for regulatory approval for AI-based devices, but most likely this has to be established at the institution level, not just NTD level. So, and Sol offered to raise this issue within WHO. And importantly, another point was raised, For applications using mobile phones and/or cloud storage, we may not just need regulatory approval on the health side, but also on the communication side. Thanks, that was it.
Okay, let's have the next group 4.
Okay, I'll also try and present the ones that don't have as much overlap. So with usability barriers, one of the barriers we identified was the slide preparation. So this can be quite variable for the results. So it's important that that's standardized, and maybe there's methods that we can do to standardize that. Perhaps not for the STH case, but other diseases. An automatic slide loading could be good for really high throughput or scanning overnight. We also, talked about the power and the infrastructure challenges, as others have mentioned, but also the attrition or the turnover rate for microscopists in the field. So if we're training people on these systems, how do we create training or tutorial programs to make sure that it's easy to adopt if there's a turnover? And also having country-based training hubs that can go around and train the different like remote health facilities on using the system, and also having follow-up. On collaboration, we talk about the importance of having biobanks available and also joining together to evaluate different systems on the same studies. So we can also build up data together, and we can also compare and learn from the solutions together. On the regulatory and market access pathway, we talked about how the research use only is an easy way to begin, but if we're installing in remote health facilities, we also need to look at the IVDR for test and treat use cases. And that's also important for multiplexing, having different diseases to make the system more useful in these remote locations. And then also having the multiplexing would also support more on the market access. Another advantage would be highlighting the possibility of reduced sample sizes by having improved diagnostic performances. Yeah, thanks.
Number 5? Yeah. There we go. You got to email them to yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to email this to me. All right, group 5 here. I'm also just going to mention the things that hasn't been. So I think for the first one there, the usability barriers, it's also a matter of priorities in the countries. So some diseases are prioritized by some countries, and you have to come up on the agenda, basically, to get attention to this in order to adopt these solutions. And also the healthcare capacity. Yet another tool in a clinic might be difficult to sort of implement if they have a lot of other things going on, other tools. So you have to be careful to really make sure they fit into the clinical procedures and the workflows. That might be more on the clinical side than the M&E side, though. Question 2. Foster collaboration. What has not been said there? Maybe one thing that we mentioned, we discussed around entry points for AI solutions in these countries, and might be easier to find that in clinical settings than M&E settings, for example, because there are more stakeholders that can see the benefit from these solutions. Also clearly show the benefit of overcoming the barriers of infrastructure like electricity, internet, and so on, cost efficiency. It's very important to clearly show the benefits with these kind of solutions. If we go to number 3, we didn't find it too difficult because we had Pat in our group. But well, there were 3 main things that we discussed around, and they're all sort of about clarification. First of all, the kind of protocol to follow in order to show that the system is fulfilling the requirements should be standardized, maybe on a WHO level. So it's very clear what kind of protocols to follow when you show that your system or platform is performant. And maybe it's a different protocol for each disease and use case. Also, the risk profiles for different drugs and diseases are different. So it's important to be clear what regulatory level adheres to different use cases and diseases. And also, it has to be very clear, and we have to reach common understanding on the content of a dossier that is handed into WHO for approval. It should be very clear what should be in there and how to gather that data. Also, clearly define what's required for an M&E use case and for a more clinical use case for individual diagnostics, basically. I think that was great.
Thank you. We are coming to the end of the session, and before I welcome Isaac to give us the closing remarks, I just wanted to say a big thank you on my own behalf. It's been a very interesting session for me, and I really like the questions that you all voted for. There were many questions, but I think these were really the most important that have given us the solutions that you've suggested on the question one, who is involved, and how do we get to where we want to be. I'm looking forward to seeing the report, and I'm looking forward to seeing this community and how it progresses. So again, thank you very much. Isaac, please.
Thanks. Thanks, Pauline. Just a quick thank you to Pauline, Lisette, and Peter, who helped coordinate and conduct this. I think it was fantastic. Also, thank you to everyone who came and who participated and provided your input. It's really important. 2 quick points. Number one, you can see how important it is to get all of us in a room together, okay? Truly interdisciplinary work, okay? We're not just engineers, we're not just parasitologists, we're not just public health experts, we're not just policymakers. You actually have to get everybody in the room together to come up with some sound ideas and tackle these very challenging problems. That's point one. Point two is a plea. Let's not make this, let me rewind. Point two is a plea. It's obvious that this is a smart path forward. It's obvious that this is a clear and good approach to tackling some of the biggest public health challenges and global health challenges that we have that impact billions, with a capital B, of people around the world. That's pretty obvious, I think, to most people in the room. Let's not have this end up being a nice meeting where we come up with a lovely report and we all move on our separate ways, and someone's going to conduct their AI work, and someone's going to conduct their field work, and someone's going to conduct their policy work. This is an opportunity to have us all together in a room, to have action items that are actually delivered, to come up with a plan, to meet again with our sponsors, hopefully with COR-NTD, putting the right people in the room together to have a sound, coordinated approach to tackle these problems ahead of us. Okay, hopefully people in the room agree with that. This is not just fluff. It's not just a report. We actually need to have outcomes and a meaningful path forward. And I'll stop at that. Thank you very much for coming.